This is Courtney George, and this is Final Speech. And that's my grandpa, and my mom, and my sister. Taking a stand against child abuse. Child abuse is a prominent crime that occurs more than many people realize. More than 2.5 million cases of child abuse and neglect are reported each year. Surprisingly, out of this number, about 35% involve physical abuse, 15% involve sexual abuse, and 50% involve neglect. Because many parents do not realize when they have crossed the line between discipline and child abuse, parents need to be educated on how to prevent this terrible crime from occurring. There are several different kinds of abuse, including physical, emotional, sexual, and neglect. 1 in 20 children are physically abused each year. According to AAP.org, physical abuse is defined as anything that involves injuring a child's body, including bruises, burns, bone injuries, head injuries, and injuries to any internal organs. It is also considered abuse when a guardian creates or allows to be created situations where a child might be at risk at any of these above treatments. Many people claim that they are just disciplining their child when they spank them, but when spanking gets to the point where it is causing visible injury to the child, it can be seen as physical abuse. Signs of physical abuse are the most obvious of all the forms of child abuse and the easiest to identify. They include unexplainable bruises, burns, black eyes, broken bones, and bites. Also, if a child seems to shy away at adults, is scared to go home, or seems frightened of their parents, then these are usually signs that physical abuse is present. If you see a child that displays any of these signs, report it immediately. Emotional abuse is the smallest percentage of the various kinds of abuse, making up only 3% of the total. According to SafeChild.org, emotional abuse is defined as a pattern of behavior that attacks the child's emotional development and sense of self-worth. This includes aggression towards the child, constant criticizing, belittling, injuring, insulting, and rejecting. Emotional abuse can be very traumatizing for young children and can cause problems throughout the rest of their lives. Some signs that a child is being emotionally abused includes highly aggressive, self-destructive behavior, shy or passive, and negative statements about themselves. These signs may be harder to recognize, but they are still very important and need to be reported. Making up about 15% of all the abuse is sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is defined as any sexual activity where the child cannot comprehend or give consent to what is happening. Most children are abused by the people that they know and trust the most. According to AAP.org, studies show that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 8 boys will be sexually abused before they turn 18. 20% of all cases occur before age 8, and 24% of female child sexual abuse survivors were first abused at the age of 5 or younger. Signs that children have been sexually abused include fearful behavior, bedwetting, attempts to run away, and genital bleeding. All of these signs should also be reported. Child neglect occurs more often than any other form of abuse. Neglect is failing to provide for a child's basic needs and risking a child's physical and emotional health. This could include not providing for the child the necessary clothing, food, medical treatments, or emotional commitment needed for them to grow and develop in their lifetime. Many caregivers do not do this intentionally, but sometimes alcohol and drugs may play an important or major role in warping the guardian's judgment on how to protect the child. Many children who have been the victims of negative or neglect appear to have bad hygiene, untreated illnesses or injuries, dress inappropriately for the weather, or don't have clothes that fit appropriately. All this information came from helpguide.org. Prevention can be achieved through intervention and education. Although there are extremely cruel cases of child abuse, there are also cases where the caregiver doesn't actually realize that they're inflicting pain or causing harm on their children. To these particular type of cases, a method of prevention would be to educate parents on the skills necessary to be a good and effective parent. Also, caregivers need to know how to manage their anger and stress and learn how to build healthy relationships in their lives. Children, like the caregivers, also need to be educated to help the prevention of child abuse. They need to know that abuse is never acceptable and that it's not their fault. They need to believe that they deserve to be loved and to be cared for and ultimately treated with respect. People also need to be aware of the amount of available assistance that is out there. There are many national hotlines and national agencies that are trained and prepared to help those who are struggling with the issue of child abuse. Some of these hotlines include 1-800-4-A-CHILD, or if you want to report a case of abuse, 1-888-PREVENT. These agencies can help if you know someone or if you are someone who struggles with the issues of child abuse. All types of abuse can make a person, especially a child, feel unloved, become lonely, have a low self-worth, sink into a depression, or fail to thrive. All of these effects can have terminal impacts on children. Becoming educated about the problem and how to help prevent this cruel act from continuing is necessary in protecting lives that are the future of our world.